Bring it to me.
Oh, okay.
He can give time.
I'd first like to say I'm very sorry for your loss and for the community's loss. Let's see, the reason I'm here today, and I'm going to be looking down, sorry, let me refresh your memories. I was here some months ago and spoke in the closed meeting.
Introduce yourself, please, ma'am.
I'm sorry, what?
Introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm Kersey Kennedy Norris. Okay. I spoke in the closed meeting as we are private people who had hoped to resolve the situation while maintaining privacy. Due to the serious nature of what happened and what LAUSD has allowed to be an ongoing, as our situation has only been covered up by LAUSD. In doing so, LAUSD has sent the loud message, loud and clear, that children and families who have been traumatized by LAUSD staff is not only acceptable, but the norm here at LAUSD, which is of great concern to us. It makes our case a universal issue, an issue that can no longer be ignored. After following every rule and asking for help from LAUSD for my son, then watching firsthand grown men and women scramble to cover up both their actions and inactions regarding a serious situation where a child was being harmed, would have been comical if it was a different matter. It was serious enough to warrant their attention and help. And let me direct this to Board Member Kaiser, who is in charge of our area. Mr. Kaiser, when Superintendent Deasy gave us a meeting with LAUSD's Roberto Martinez to help us with a horrific bully situation, which we had experienced at the hands of our principal, Veronica Sasso, and LAUSD staff members, my son's school was Franklin Avenue Elementary in Los Feliz. Together, Veronica Sasso, Franklin teacher Judy Murray, Sasso's enrichment program, Director Sandy Picasso, along with Amy Hopkins, enabled, allowed, covered up, and encouraged bullying to continue. As all of the parent letters I have attest to, something that we witnessed firsthand, there was a code of silence where certain families at Franklin, including local politician Tomas O'Grady, the code was not to address the bullying of these important fundraising families, which is fully documented and resulted in ongoing abuses. We also found out that Principal Sasso had a prior LAUSD settlement with the same bully group. My son was viciously attacked backstage in the enrichment program at a show. Principal Sasso had stated that it was not her duty, not her job to handle bullying, and referred us back to the enrichment program directors, Sandy Picasso and Amy Hopkins, who did nothing to stop the bullying, as I had been asking for a full month prior for relief. Because no action was ever taken, the abuse continued. Principal Sasso refused to help, and when we exposed the bullying, she then retaliated in her attempts to cover her actions. She went after my son and myself with a vengeance, which is again fully documented. Sasso used the families involved to support her agenda. We had hopes that this would be resolved already. Such was not the case. When I met with LAUSD's Mr. Roberto Martinez, he explained to us that my son's situation meant nothing to LAUSD and that time had passed. That our evidence meant nothing to LAUSD. I reminded Mr. Martinez that this is what we had been told by LAUSD while it was happening. I then contacted David Estrada in your office, who explained that I would have to speak in order to have Mr. Martinez removed from our case, which I did. We were given LAUSD's Mr. Earl Perkins that day, who had welcomed us with his charm, open arms, and a comment that my son looked like his grandson. Sadly, Mr. Perkins turned out to be damage control. We were promised the due process that we had never been given. We shared many emails and three-way calls with Mr. Perkins, my father, and myself as to the upcoming meeting and to its content. Weeks went by. When I contacted Mr. Perkins, he then sent an email stating, to our shock, that he had now given this to Eugene Hernandez and that I would receive a summary of his findings and hope this takes care of our concerns. All the while, we were never once contacted by Eugene Hernandez, and the meeting mysteriously vanished. I then contacted David Estrada for help, as the meeting now had been thwarted, dodged, and canceled by Mr. Perkins in his efforts to conceal the horrific actions of Principal Sasso, along with LAUSD's Maureen Diekman, who I had contacted for help as she was above the principal at the time. She is now in charge of all early childhood development for LAUSD, which is a disturbing thought at best. Maureen Diekman had laughed at my son's traumatic situation. Maureen Diekman continued the cover-up that Sasso had in place. She refused to help or investigate, which again is fully documented. After 5 peaceful years, this was the last 6 weeks of school before his culmination. I finally found out my rights and had called the school police after 2 more attacks. The day we called the police is the day that the Principal Sasso began retaliating and targeting my son and myself with a vengeance. She continued with further reckless and illegal actions that I will not mention here just yet. but I invite all to view our case, which has been described as a classic footprint of LAUSD cover-up. Their arrogance to do this right in front of the school board is a disgrace. Your office investigated LAUSD and found that Mr. Perkins dodging the meeting was wrong. You then investigated the meeting. You then reinstated this meeting. We then received another letter from Mr. Perkins. This time he was stating there had been a thorough investigation, which is a lie. That there was only one bullying incident, another lie. Never did I hear the word depressed from my 11-year-old child before Veronica Sasso and her crew began their personal assaults on my son, who suffered simply for asking for help, which it turned out was the standard response from Sasso to any bullying allegations, was to ignore, deny, cover up, and retaliate. Then we arrived at the meeting with Mr. Perkins. There was no open arms for us. Instead, Mr. Perkins told us to sit down, that he was in charge now, and that he will send a letter stating that the matter was now closed. Mr. Perkins, you lied. My son's rights were violated. His education was harmed. We asked for due process and the appropriate actions be taken. Not one LAUSD employee stood up and used the written LAUSD policies and rules. If they had, this would have never happened. Thank you for your attention to this matter. We wish you all a happy holiday.
Before you go, we have Mr. Hernandez here and Mr. Perkins, and they will see you right now. They're right there.
I request. We've already seen them. These are the ones that caused this. This was never handled. This is very uncomfortable for me.
I understand. I would recommend you follow up with them, and then if you're not satisfied, you have their boss. But
who is their boss?
She is.
Michelle King.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
I appreciate
So they're waiting right now, and if you're not satisfied, they'll give you her number.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. If they're back here on my right, your left. Okay, we've got the next speaker. 13. I see 13 coming down, and at 14 we'll be ready, please. Welcome, Mr. Wallace.
Good afternoon, Board Member Dr. Loudwick, Mrs. King, and all board members. I'm Walter Wallace Richardson. I'm founder of California Taiwan Parent Union with a membership of over 1,700 parents, administrators, superintendents, board members, students. Okay. First, I want to thank you for waiting to allow Mrs. Lamont to be put in the ground. We know her soul is already gone back to God, but just the mere respect of allowing her and her family, that would have been a great insult to the family to go and do something like this today. Because it's amazing how we talk about the democratic process, and when it's time for voting in the primary and the time where it really matters, those people that our constituents talk about, they never show up at the polls. And I can prove that because I got documentation. But it's amazing. It's just amazing how people... I've been around for 50-some years, you know, and I see people come and go. I hear them. I've been in the organization. They're full of it. I'll leave it like that. But anyway, I'm here concerned about the fact that we have the greatest district in the nation. However, we need to do some things better than what we've been doing. Now, I have been speaking to the board regarding our superintendent, regarding you approved for him to use $397 million back in 2012. You gave him that money. It's time for an accountability of that money, $397 million. This school year, 2013-14, he took the entire Title I budget, which was $700-some million, and put it in general fund dollars. There have been no reauthorization in Title I. And I got this in black and white. I've shared it with some of you from the U.S. Department of Education. So therefore, putting that Title I budget with the general fund is supplanting. That's against the law. It's illegal. That money should have been used in the schools on the students and the teachers and the district. So there needs to be an accountability of that total Title I budget for 2013-14 school year. That's too much money. We're talking about over $10 million, almost $1,100 million. So it's time for us to have an audit, a complete audit of this budget of LAUSD. Thank you, board member. Wish you all a happy holiday. Be safe. God speed.
Be safe. Okay, what's the next number?
14.
14. Is this the last number? Okay.
Good afternoon, board members. I have something I would like to give to you.
You need to introduce yourself, please.
Oh, and I would like to split my time with my teacher, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay. My name is Michelle Thomas, and I am a sophomore in the Fine and Performing Arts Academy at Maya Angelou Community High School. My experiences this year have been greater than ever since I have been able to become an active member of MECHA and our Parent-Student-Teacher Association. This year is definitely different from last year, and the changes that have been made that we as a school community are making are incredible. It is obvious that the administration and teachers have intentionally begun to create a better learning environment. I feel that there has been more of a focus put on my education, and because of that, I come to school wanting to learn. I now have a large support system amongst my teachers, and I know that if I have a problem, whether it be related or personal, I can always come to them for any help that I may need. We now work together as a large group, and we spend time together working on different events for the school. For instance, teachers and parents have gone into my classrooms. That's something I've never seen before. I like it because it shows communication. Also, we all had to participate in interviews for our mentoring class. This was interesting because it helps us prepare for real-life job interviews and shows us how we will be expected to act. And we now have a tutoring program on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays for students in our library with our teachers for students who choose to go. Also, students with Fs are required to go when they are assigned with mandatory tutoring. Besides the direct focus of my education, I have noticed the intentional focus of communication. Last year, one of the biggest complaints was that there was no communication between the school. This year, however, we have assemblies at least twice a month, which allows students to ask any questions they may have, address any concerns, and stay up to date with anything that is going on. We also have this thing that we call a passport, and we have parents sign them, and so that we can... This holds the parents accountable for each meeting that they go to, and it promotes them getting more involved in their children's education because they get a T-shirt the more signatures that they have signed. And with this passport, Thank you.
I'm sorry, you have about 30 seconds, sir. We're going to hold to the time.
Good afternoon, board members, President Valverde. My name is Antonio Guzman Jr. I'm a proud teacher at the Fine Performing Arts Academy at Maya Angelou High School. I stand here today with the parents, thank you parents, students from the school, my other colleagues. I stand here today with my colleagues, our students, parents, and the community members to speak to you about the great work taking place at our academy under the new leadership. Since the moment that Dr. Nahel became our principal in July, we began a tireless campaign to increase the communication with and education of both students and parents. Unfortunately, our time is up. Thank you very much. We would love to share more with you the great work that has and continues to take place at our school. Thank you.
Great. So I continue the process. The young lady you spoke, I'd like to know where you plan to go to college and what do you plan to do. I can't ask everyone. You spoke and I'm interested.
I'm not sure, but I think San Diego University or maybe Cal Poly Pomona.
And what would you like to do?
I would like to pursue music.
Outstanding. Very, very good. Thank you. Thank you for
Thank you very much.
coming. Speaker number 15, please. 15. 15. 15. With that, I'm going to make a closing statement for one of our colleagues. And bear with me, and then we'll end the meeting. But it's very, very important that I do this. Marguerite Poindexter Lamont was born July 17, 1933 in New Orleans, Louisiana. She was the youngest of 7 children to Leon and Amy Poindexter. She flourished, though it was an integrated South and an integrated school system. and she graduated from Xavier Preparatory High School and the YMCA Business College in New Orleans. At the age of 18, she was appointed director of Spalding Business College in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.